I lost 2 babies, and this was going back years, and then I was 5.5 months pregnant both times, and then I got a double pneumonia and nearly died the first time, and then the second time I nearly died, and the third time when I was pregnant with Kaylee I got toxemia. I was very, very poorly after many, many years of abuse, losing babies and a lot of other things. I actually nearly went blind for about 4 years. Something happened and I collapsed, and I was in town with my boys, and I got rushed into hospital, and they was just like, "Oh, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant?" And I came home, I couldn't, because this is what I'm saying, people didn't listen. And as soon as somebody doesn't listen, I've lost interest, because it's like, I know myself more than you could ever understand, and if I'm telling you I'm not pregnant, you don't need to do no test. I know why I'm not pregnant. Maybe they were looking at my history because I'd lost babies and this and that and the other. And as soon as somebody, I feel they're not listening to me, I'm gone. Because I'm not that person, I don't care how many people you deal with. I'm me, and I am a strong person, I know my own man. And they was like, "Oh, well, maybe you didn't." And in the end I just thought, you're not hearing me, are you? So I just came home. And for 4 years my eyesight went, not completely. I couldn't see properly, like, for 4 years I thought I was going blind. But I couldn't make for the doctor. One, I didn't care anymore. As long as I could look after my kids, which I was doing. And 2, I never went to doctors, I never go to doctors ever. For me to go to doctors, I have to be nearly dead or feeling like I'm dying, because I won't bother people. Started with panic attacks when one day I went to take the kids to school, and everything just... That was my first panic attack. I didn't know what was happening. I came in and my eyesight was going, the panic attacks started, and I think I managed to go to my brother's funeral. I only just managed that, and that was probably the last time I went out. About 2 years ago, and the doctor come, because I only used to have panic attacks outside the house, but then the panic attacks were actually happening in my own home. This is one place, like the parrot in its cage, it feels safe. And this is like, I know it's sad, but it's life, but the actual panic attacks were happening in my home, which was horrendous, because when you're having a panic attack, you wanted to get out, but yet I couldn't get out, because that was what scared me. I was having panic attacks in my sleep. I've had to deal with so much for so long, and I mean long time, and I mean on a daily basis. 20 years of mental torture. That's just one section of my life. I had to deal with so much that which made me ill. I don't know how much. I don't know how many times I could pick myself up. I've picked myself up and kept going, and it's just like, how much more can your mind take before you don't get up anymore? My health was that bad that I was getting to a point I couldn't even open a letter. I couldn't deal with anything. See, my friend, he's the one who stepped in, and he was a rock, and I had paperwork. I didn't understand any of these, why I was getting them all. I just assumed, to be honest, I didn't assume anything, because I was so poorly, so really, really poorly, that I was just going through the motions of, I was here for my children, and that's all I was here for. It didn't matter about me no more. So while all these things were happening, or letters were coming, I didn't understand them. And I used to ask Chris to go in and sort these things out, but I thought they were getting sorted out. And then I'd hear nothing for that was it. I thought it was all done. The £9,000, I didn't know what any of it was. I didn't know it was happening until it all came on top, and I didn't know what to do. That is so hard to keep having to go through it and explain it, and then somebody else will come on and you've got to go through it again, and that is really so simple. Stressful. Yeah. You just felt like you just get passed from one person to another, or you all always get, "Oh, well, we'll phone you back," and it never happens. And I struggle on the phone anyway. That's why Chris does a lot of things for me. They just want to fob you off, and you just, in the end, it's just, what's the point? I felt there was nobody to help, really, nobody. Yeah. What do you do when after asking and trying and nobody wants to know, and all you get is, well, we can't do home visits. We don't do home visits. If you can come to the office, it's like, well, I can't. So in the end, you just part of you just gives up, doesn't it? Because with my illness, any help that I've wanted, needed, to do with anything, because don't leave the house, and I've not left the house for, I don't know, it must be about 14 years now. Nobody, we don't do home visits, we can't come. So that was the real problem, is if I could have got to some of these places, maybe things would have moved on, but all you ever got was, well, we don't do home visits. Try ringing this person, try ringing this person, try ringing this person. And in the end, it was, I gave up because nobody would come. It's just, we don't do that. We don't do that. Why don't you try ringing this? And then Dave and Ian, they came. And from them two men coming, they got the ball rolling, and they did what they had to do. And that basically got the ball rolling, and there's been so many different people helping that it was actually overwhelming, because going from having no help for all those years to having this person, that became overwhelming. It was like, you're getting all this help, and I didn't know, it was scary. It was. But I felt, whereas before in the past when you've tried to get help, you got the feeling of, they don't really care, they're not bothered, they're just doing the job, you're just another number or whatever, yeah, we'll get back to you or whatever. But this time I actually felt that, no, the people do care, and they are really, it's not just a job to these people, it's actually, I knew deep down, I could tell, I could sense, I could feel that it wasn't just about, we're just doing our job and that's it. It was like people who genuinely wanted to do the job properly, wanted to make a difference. One of the main things I think that made a big difference from mine and Chris's point of view was that if you come in, you don't have to, you're not just going to get passed to this person, you're going to stay with the same person who knows. Because that's it, every time you get past, you get this new person who's never seen the case before, and then they're looking at it, when you're sticking with the one person who knows what's going on, that was absolutely, made all the difference. The fact that we had our own caseworker who knew exactly what was going on, who knew exactly what people she was dealing with, like I say, and which people were involved. Well, yeah, of course it went smoothly, because they could ring that person knew what was going on, and I knew that you was giving it 100% on my behalf. And for someone you've never met to do that for you, and I know you can say, oh, well, it's my job, but just don't, and I actually felt that you was working for me, even though you'd never met me. I knew you knew your job. Everybody worked together, made the difference. Everybody knew what was going on. A weight's lifted, because even though I was trying my hardest to not worry about it and to not think that it's still there, and the last few weeks the depression has been really bad, really, really bad. Getting a lot of suicidal thoughts, because everything's just too much. But at the same time, I felt like, how can I put it, that anything else that comes along, I don't feel it can ever be as big as this. If it didn't get sorted, this was the roof over my head. This was people wanting £9,000 worth of debt that I didn't even know I was in. But if I hadn't have had this debt relief, and these bills would have wanted paying, and what would I have paid them? What would I have done? Probably just got to bed, put my quilt over me, and just stayed there. The fact that I got letters back confirming, debt relief, and I was like, oh, right, so that one's done. That I did see light at the end of the tunnel. Do I think I can deal with other things that come along? As long as they're never as big as the things that have just been sorted out, I think I could.
We've had a very recent budget which has made all sorts of changes or proposed changes to the welfare system. One of the ones in there is the benefit cap, which up until this point hasn't really had much of a dramatic effect in Hull. To be affected by the benefit cap, you would need to probably have 5 children, and then any excess money is taken from your housing benefit. So we've seen a handful of those people. But now the benefit cap is going to be £20,000 a year. And that's going to affect someone, for instance, if you have a couple on job seekers allowance and they have 3 children, then they are going to lose £67 a week off their housing benefit for their council house. Now that's a significant impact. So it's gone from, in this city, almost an impact on a handful of people. Well, there are plenty of people in this city who've got 3 children, and the impact will be you will have to find £67 a week from base benefits towards your housing, and if you don't, you'll be placed in immediate rent arrears with all the things that brings. And debt is a big problem in this city. Housing issues are a big problem in this city with possession, eviction, notice seeking possession. And welfare benefits, of course, is a big issue, not least because of the continuing austerity and the constant review of welfare benefits and levels and everything else. So we're expecting that to increase the volumes of people we see even more so. I believe the Generalist Advice Service is in excess of 7,000 clients a year, and I would imagine that's going to increase from the current reforms from the very recent budget.
Each time new welfare reforms come in, they tend for the large part to be negative for the client, in fact if not entirely negative for the client. It usually means a reduction in their income, or it makes things more difficult for them. And so all we see is just a gradual increase in demand for advice, first of all checking out what it means for them, but also of course if it is more difficult for somebody to qualify for a benefit, we see also a larger proportion of cases that come to us for help with challenging decisions as well. So in every way it impacts on the service, and we get far more referrals. It's very frustrating because whenever you see programmes, you see one view, and unfortunately it's quite a popular view again amongst a lot of members of the public that are working. They see that people basically choose a lifestyle. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it is an extremely small percentage of the people that we see. I think they just seem to be these more colourful characters that make good TV, but the reality is there's lots of people, especially through middle age, before retirement, who are losing their jobs, and there doesn't seem to be any programmes or any press that covers what happens to these people that have been in a really good job and then they have to fight just to get themselves £73 a week when they've probably been earning an extremely good wage, and the impact it has on their relationships and their housing, all aspects of life. So whilst I'm sure that the images that you see from TV does happen, it's certainly not the majority, and I would actually say it's a very small minority of people that do rely on benefits.
People who are poor, people who are disabled, people who are in need, it seems at the moment that being in need in any way is being demonised completely. Whereas what we actually see is people who have genuine issues, have genuine problems, and have a genuine need to be in receipt of things like benefits, to be in receipt of services from the social services department and from health services. And it just seems as if the very fact that you actually put your head above the parapet and come forward and say, I am a person in need, I am a disabled person, I am a poor person, is enough for you to actually be regarded as some sort of scrounger, as somebody who's on the take. And for that reason you actually find that people are not necessarily coming forward. Since the changes to the legal aid legislation, the number of people who are actually coming forward and complaining about discrimination in the workplace has almost dropped off a cliff. Now, you're not telling me that the change in that legislation has suddenly ended discrimination in the workplace. It just doesn't work like that. What's actually happened is the combination of the lack of funding and the demonisation of those people has actually meant that they will not put their head above the parapet anymore.
I think some of our clients don't really live, they more just exist because they've got no disposable income really to spend on anything they actually enjoy. It's just literally getting by. I can pay the bills, I can pay my bus fares to get into town, to go to a job club, to go to a doctor's appointment, to go to the job centre.
Good quality advice improves people's lives. It can be demonstrated in all sorts of ways, even from the point of fact that often in my interviews and the interviews of my colleagues, when the client leaves, they say, I feel so much better now, which is a clear impact on improving their mental health. And if we improve people's mental health, it improves their ability to actually do the things that they need to do, because advice is a two-way thing. It's a partnership between the advisor and the person receiving the advice. They need the advice, and then they need to be able to do certain things. When things become too much, then people withdraw and really don't take part at all. When things have got to such a level in their lives that people are being often bombarded from all places, they owe credit cards, they owe council tax, they owe everything everywhere, then it comes to a point of they can't cope with that, fighting a battle on every front, and therefore withdraw from everything. And that's of course when things get to a serious stage.
Anything that just makes the journey for somebody particularly who's vulnerable, if it can speed it up and ensure that they get access to the most appropriate and the best services possible, then it can only be a positive thing for that client. And I think if left to their own devices, sometimes the more vulnerable or those that maybe aren't as capable, they probably wouldn't follow them through. And very often, of course, unless an issue or a problem is dealt with sooner than later, it can then escalate. So I think that the speed as well, that you can refer quickly onto another service, can be extremely important.
The Warren has been around for 32 years now, and it's like a lot of organisations in the third sector are experiencing a very, very difficult time in terms of funding, and it's imperative that the outside world understand the significance of the work that happens here, and it's imperative that misperceptions of what happens here are dispelled, and being part of that wider network means you not only have people to whom you can refer and who you can in turn support, it means you've got your own publicity network, because you've got an advocate at every turn, you have an ambassador. We should be ambassadors for each other. So it's not so much talking about what the Warren does, it's about ensuring that we have even more allies to relay our message, and vice versa, on each other's behalf.
We all have to realise how important it is that partnerships continue and we keep working together. I can never remember, there's an old phrase, something about if you stand alone, you fall alone. If you stand together, you stand together. And I know that's not the exact phrase, but that's something we really have to remember. We're in a position now where we have a government that talks about supporting the voluntary sector, but frankly it comes across as if their idea of the voluntary sector is blue rinse ladies making tea for people in hospital. It's not dynamic organisations providing quality legal advice. It's not organisations filled with professionals who are trained, who know what they're doing, who can give high quality advice of a similar quality that you would pay for in a solicitor's office or an accountant's office. That's what we're providing. We don't just give advice, we also turn around, and when they get things wrong, we tell them.
And when you're in an era of austerity as we are now, or imposed austerity, it is really difficult to see a surge in your client group and a demise in your funding. It's like having a foot in a carriage of two different roller coasters, and that's a really, really difficult thing to try and control and direct. So we need to be more effective in how we deliver those services, and what really enhances that is effective communication, and the advice network which CAB are delivering in conjunction with us as one of your partners and all the other partners in the city is part of becoming more effective in delivering those services, simply because we have to think more creatively, more quickly, more effectively in order to be able to support the people that we're working with.